Hey, welcome everybody. It is now Friday, January 19th, 4 o'clock here Pacific time, and we have a really exciting show today, at least I think so. I had an idea a while back about how to reconnect with the FIBI community. As many of you out there may or may not know, we started this community in order to reach out to other investors and just network and help each other, share information, things like that. And it's been a while since I've had a live meeting, so I'm using this technology to kind of reach out, and had a really pleasant surprise. I reconnected with a familiar face. We have a guy by the name of Josh Knight that's going to join us today, and also John Metz, who I've actually met him for the first time here online. But both are familiar with FIBI, and we want to kind of talk about what obstacles, what things they're running into out there in the market, and how to meet their goals, and what better time to do it than the beginning of the year in 2018. So I'm going to start off with both of you guys say hi out there. Let's say hi out there for our viewers, John and Josh.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be here.
Cool, thanks, Josh. And John, let's put the spotlight on you for a moment, if that's okay.
Sure.
John's been managing apartment buildings for the last 17 years. Right now he's in the West Los Angeles or Westchester area. And it's a fairly large community, 582 units. Wow, that's a lot of units, isn't it, John?
Yeah, it's very large. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that must keep you on your toes, huh?
That's for sure. It's always busy.
Yeah, so you've been kind of looking at investing for many, many years. You've been probably attending a lot of clubs and seminars, right?
Right.
And you have something you described in your bio as something that I was also afflicted with many times, which is called analysis paralysis, which will strike the best of the investors out there, because there's just so much information, especially with this digital age, right? You get so much stuff that comes at you. But you've really kind of stuck a flag in the ground saying, I'm going to take some massive action this year.
Yeah, I've been kind of pondering it for a long time. How can I get my foot in the real estate game when I don't have a lot of money to, go out and buy things, and
Right.
How can I get started? Here I am managing apartment buildings for other companies, and they're, making a lot of money from my hard work, and I'd rather those, be my own properties, obviously. So, how to make the shift out of a 9-to-5 job into an entrepreneurial, that's quite a shift. But also getting started, with very little money, and which avenue am I going to pick? So finally, I picked wholesaling.
Okay.
I'm finally taking some steps forward just recently. Yeah.
Perfect. It sounds to me like you signed up for a something called 60-Day Challenge. I know Iris Veneration really well. She hosts a program out there from the Invest Club for Women in Orange County. So you decided to sign up, and when does that start?
It starts on the 29th of this month of January.
Wow.
And it's a 60-day program, so it's coming up soon. I was debating between that and other, I was looking at every mentor out there.
Right.
And decided to go with something local in my backyard so I can make local connections. And I've heard good things about it, so.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that the people that I have talked to that have gone through it, they've said, yeah, it was really a great shot in the arm to get me going, and to get me in the habit of the things that it took to get me to getting these deals. So 10 days away, man. We're going to be rooting for you.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you've been kind of nibbling at it. You've sent out some direct mail, right? And haven't had the results that you expected. How many pieces did you send out?
I sent out about 2,000 over a few months. I did some driving for dollars and collected some addresses.
Okay.
And then sent out some postcards and some letters. And I'm still doing that. I'm still, I'm still kind of deciding, what am I going to market to? Am I marketing to absentee owners? Am I marketing to part of my marketing is definitely to the driving for dollars that I've come across, the houses I've driven by.
Okay.
but then with the remainder of my budget, trying to choose where to put that, maybe in code violations, maybe in tax defaults, maybe in, so I'm kind of still figuring that out.
Yeah, yeah. I call that investors ADD. There's just so much you can, everything looks like a shiny object. One person will say, "Hey, you should do, code enforcement," or "Hey, what about taxing?" Right? So you have, there's the danger out there, and I've, definitely fallen and succumbed to this where everything's a shiny object, and what happens is you just kind of get in your own way with too many things to get tripped up on. And it was funny. I was watching a Tony Robbins video the other day, and he was saying, complexity is the worst thing for action. I'm probably butchering the line, but he was saying, simplicity will encourage you to go forward. So definitely try to keep things simple. When you're doing these, I'm kind of curious because I do this too. I drive for dollars. When you're driving for dollars, where do you decide to drive, and what are you looking for?
Well, I pick neighborhoods where it's in a lower price point.
Okay.
So I'm looking for houses that are under the $500,000 range, and where there's likely to be more distress. So the zip codes that I've chosen are kind of in like close to the USC area, downtown.
Yeah.
Also Compton, Southgate. So kind of those areas are where I've been driving.
Gotcha. And what in particular are you looking for when you're driving these streets? So, you're going down, East 28th Street, right, or whatever, and you're looking around, you're driving slow, right? You want to try to pick up some details. What are the telltale signs you're looking for?
I'm looking for tall grass. I'm looking for just unkept signs that the house is not kept up well. A mailbox that's overflowing with mail.
Yeah.
Just the house looks like the roof is just in terrible shape, and maybe there's a boarded window. So anything that looks like distress, a tarp on the roof, something like that. Anything that shows distress.
So on this driving for dollar program, and I'm going to kind of drill into you a little bit, John, so please forgive me if I put you in the hot seat. But I think it's important because you have limited time and resources like we all do, so we want to make the most of what we're doing. And it sounds like you have kind of this big wide swath of areas that are possible for you. I would definitely encourage you to narrow that swath down to a very focused remember the old Thomas guides with the boxes? Pick a couple of grid points and just drive those neighborhoods up and down and look for all that stuff.
Right.
Have in your drive-by activities, how many people have you found, or how many people say, "Oh, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to mail them." How many mailers have you sent out, or contacts have you made?
I've collected 500 so far.
Okay.
And I am using a little app on my phone that tracks where I drive, so I don't drive the same street again.
Nice.
It's helpful.
Yeah. What app is that? Because that'd be really helpful for other people.
Yeah, it's called GPS Tracks.
Nice.
Really cool app.
Okay, so now you're not doubling back on the same stuff, right? So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you've collected. Have you mailed to any of these people yet?
Yeah, I've mailed out. I mailed out a yellow letter, and I mailed out a postcard, and then a more professional letter.
Okay.
I tried calling some of them. I didn't get very far with that. That was pretty time-consuming, trying to track down somebody that would actually answer the phone.
Right.
And it's So, but I haven't gotten any appointments set up yet out of this yet. That's
Okay.
kind of.
But you've made contact though. That's great, right? You have spoken to people and
I've spoken to a few people. Yeah.
Kind of gauge their motivation, right? To see where they're at.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Just hang tight. I think I want to go to Josh for a little bit to find out where he is, but we're going to circle back because I think there's a lot of things in common here that we'll be able to tie together. So just hang tight, John. Thanks for
Sure.
sharing what you have. But I want to bring Josh up. So Josh, you've got quite a project ahead of yourself because I remember when we first met around 2009, you were saying, "Oh gosh, I'm thinking about buying some property or investing in some property," and lo and behold, you've got some income units in LA. You've bought some from your home state of Maine, and you also have possible house that sounds like it's in distress in Connecticut, just outside of Hartford. So you're kind of all over the place here,
Yeah,
right?
it's quite scattered. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
would put it in the challenges column for sure.
Yeah. So that's pretty tough to manage. And part of your dream is you want to be able to be financially free, right? You want to be able to have a lifestyle where it's kind of, and I think we all do, right? That's what we all want when we
That's why we're here, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me what has been, kind of the sticking point so far.
Yeah, well, I just want to say quickly for John, the path that he's taking right now, I did the exact same thing almost in the same neighborhoods. In West Adams is where I got my first property.
Okay.
I was just driving up and down streets. I was using just Zillow at the time, or maybe Trulia at the time. I've collected maybe 100 different properties that were for sale, and I have just a very simple system, and I just looked at all of them through the exact same lens. And I found that when you look at a lot of properties, one or two will just sort of pop out as like something's different about this one. The returns just seem like they would be better somehow. I just find that to be the case in all the investing I've done. Something always kind of pops out as being exceptional.
Yeah.
To try and track down.
I think you're right, Josh. That's good advice because what I call it, kind of the real estate spidey senses. Right after a while, you're driving, and you say, there's something that I just know about this property. Something's
Right.
up, right?
Yeah. And I think with a system like you described, a simple system, I just really look at like what do I expect the income to be, what do I expect the expenses to be, and then what do I expect my return to be,
Right.
just a very basic system. But sometimes they'll just pop out,
Yeah.
and those are the ones I kind of wait for, even if it takes a while.
Yeah. So when I was looking at your bio and kind of description of some of the dilemmas you're dealing with, you've actually done quite well for yourself, I have to say, in the last few years because you really took action. But with everything, it's like I remember when I said I can't wait till I have X amount of units, and then I had a number of units I wanted. But with those units comes a bunch of other problems, right? They're good problems because you have to figure them out, and it's better than not having any problems. But it's just another kind of another obstacle in the path of getting to a better situation. So tell me what's happening with. Let's start off with the LA unit that you bought in West Adams. It sounds like you did really well with that.
Yeah, that's been fantastic. I think I got lucky with the neighborhood. They put in the what is it, the Silver Line, or what's the new train that went into Los Angeles? I'm not living there at the moment.
Yeah, where are you living now, by the way, Josh?
I'm in North Carolina actually. I work for Bank of America.
Oh no
Yeah.
way. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
of all places. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they put in the metro line there, and that's been good for the area.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think so. It's really the value seemed to be picking up. And when I bought the property, and maybe this might be in the advice column as well, I was looking all over Los Angeles, a very shotgun type approach. And
Right.
I found that I kind of developed a system for that too, where I was looking at things like the bars on the windows. Are there bars on the first floor windows, or are there also bars on the second story? And where's the graffiti? Only in the alleyway, or is it also in the front of the house? There's kind of these telltale signs. And look at the number of people who are just kind of hanging out up front, just sitting around.
Yeah.
Because I think also, like John was saying, kind of in the lower income neighborhoods are maybe where you're going to find the cash flow. But you don't want to go too low because the cash flow will look amazing on paper, but then you go in the neighborhood and you just are scared to even get out of the car.
Yeah.
That was my experience anyway. So I found just like the high end of a low income neighborhood or the low end of a middle income seemed to be a good sweet spot.
Yeah, it sounds like John is really wanting to focus on wholesaling, so that's a little bit of he gives a little bit freedom to himself that way because he doesn't have to buy and hold it. He can have somebody else figure out how to deal with the conditions that are going to be challenging to manage. But that's a good point, Josh.
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
So everything's working well with your LA property. Would you say you want to hold on to it and keep it, or is it something you want to focus more on, buying more in LA or something like it?
Yeah, I think it's been well. It's going pretty well. The equity has improved quite a lot, so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
The cash flow is pretty meager at the moment. I bought the property with two vacant units in the front and then one unit in the back, which had an elderly woman in there.
Okay.
She just moved out like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So
But she's been there a long time, though, right?
She's been there about 10 years. Yeah.
Right. That's the great tenant, right? I think we can all agree on that. 10 years.
Well,
turnover.
great tenant, except the previous owners never increased the rent, so she was in the with the RSO,
Gotcha.
the rent stabilization.
Right,
She was at a very low rent, and I did my
Gotcha.
best to increase that every 3% every year, but it wasn't much. So she was paying about half of what the rent should be.
Okay.
So yeah, not the worst thing to have to lose her
Mm-hmm.
to open that vacancy up. But now we're looking at that. This is maybe one of the challenges. That unit in the back is it's been lived in for 10 years or more, like 20 years probably, because she was there before I got there, and it's in bad condition.
Sure.
And this is, I think, a great opportunity for me because there's really very limited parking in the area and really space for one car at this property. So potentially this rear unit could be lifted up and put 3-car garage in there. But I need to analyze that to make sure, what is it going to be, $200,000 to build I don't know, $250 maybe to build a 3-car garage and an apartment above.
Right.
So that's just
do you feel comfortable? Say that with your calculations, it's like, okay, green light, go. And the numbers make sense. Yeah. Do you feel confident that you can manage a project like that from North Carolina?
I would not feel comfortable with that. I'd want to be on site as much as possible, for sure. Okay. I just finished a flip here in Maine, not here in Maine, in Maine, on the East Coast, and I wasn't there for the management of that project, and
how'd it go?
I will never do that again.
It's tough,
too
right?
much. Yeah, it's too much. Even with close family, it's just too much stress and unknowns and expenses that you're kind of wondering about. How did that cost so much?
Yeah. So that was kind of like the second thing you added, and you first mentioned the LA thing, then you talked about the stuff that you had in Maine.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to you found something in Maine that you were going to do a flip on, and things didn't go exactly as planned, right?
It's just it took
a lot more expenses.
Yeah, the budget about doubled, a little more than doubled.
Wow.
And I didn't really make that much money available for the project, so that meant a lot of scraping together,
shoestring stuff,
from random places, yeah.
Right.
And then and the timeline was about tripled, so we expected 3 or 4 months, and it was more like, well, it's still not sold. We have a showing tomorrow, so cross your fingers, everybody.
All right, everybody, give positive thoughts to Josh to sell that property out in May. Yeah. But you have also some buy and holds out there as well.
I do, yeah. I have 3 properties out there. It's 4 units and 3 properties, and they are, the cash flow is mediocre. The equity has been great. I bought them very, very cheap for. Two of them were no money down, actually, which I was just happy to know that actually does exist. All the books and everything you read, that's possible. It's definitely possible. Just working directly with a bank that was a local bank, and they actually did no money down and gave me some money back to start with the renovations, which was, I had read about it as a possibility, but I never really believed it until it happened.
It's hard to believe, right? When you read all these stories and then you're like, wow, it can actually be done.
It could actually happen, yeah. So that's been a lot of just real hard work. I bought them cheap, very distressed, and just doing a lot of manual labor myself. Very scrappy, scraping together any money that I could, doing whatever I can to just keep the costs down, keep the mortgage expenses low, get them rented. And, now they're all rented and they're producing some income. But really, the return on equity is pretty low when you look at it in that way. It's, maybe I just did some math. It's maybe 8%.
Okay.
But I think I could maybe do a little restructuring and put that money into a different place and do better.
Right. Are they still paying a mortgage on them, or are they free and clear?
One is free and clear. The other 2 are quite low mortgages. I owe $30,000 on one, and the other one is $50,000, I think. So.
Right.
Pretty close to being paid off.
Right. What's your appetite in staying in that market? Whether it's in a better quality stuff, or what's your appetite for looking for more deals in Maine?
I would really need to be there from now on. It's just I have found so much trouble with. It's kind of in a rural section of Maine, yes. So the property management options are very few, and those ones that I found have been. I would give you stories, but they're wildly unprofessional. It's pretty amazing, the things that we run into. And the same goes for the contractors I found there. It's just been very, very difficult to find good quality work that you can trust and dependable to show up. Sometimes they show up for half the project and then something gets in the way. Yeah, I don't know what happens, but
Right.
I don't know. I know there's a drug problem in that area of the state, but I think that's nationwide. So I'm not really not sure what's happening, but
Uh-huh.
a huge struggle, especially being remote and just wondering like why are these things not getting done?
How long are you going to be in North Carolina in the foreseeable future? Do you see yourself there for a while, or?
Well, as long as they're not listening today, the reason I'm here at the bank is just financially, so I can take some time to restructure these mortgages, and I have a kind of a large scale plan of
Okay.
selling a couple of the main properties, paying off the Connecticut property. There's a big property in Connecticut I have. I think with that, if I paid that off in full and then maybe got a line of credit on that before I left the bank,
Yeah.
then I think that would be enough cash flow to live very frugally. So technically could be financially free and then have the line of credit as short-term investments, maybe another flip or something, but I would be free to be on location for anything else in the future.
So Connecticut could be an area that you would want to spend time in. Is that what I'm kind of gathering?
Well, I have a property manager there who I kind of trust, so I would
Okay.
leave that property as just the rental income from there. I wouldn't need to live there. I think that could be self-sustaining, and
Right.
the income that it throws off would be just enough to kind of keep yourself fed and
Right.
you know whatever else you need to do. The
Yeah.
basics for sure. Maybe $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and then from there, if I can really just be frugal and take care of the base expenses, then I would feel much more free to be managing projects and taking stuff on a little more aggressively, where I can be hands-on and make sure there's no
Gotcha.
leaking expenses.
Well, I think it's really interesting. Tell us about this, how you stumbled upon this deal in Connecticut. I'm kind of interested how you did that.
Yeah, that was exciting. My cousin actually, she was the owner of the place, and we had just been talking. We don't even talk that often. It just happened. It was coincidental.
Yeah.
She had ended up with a house through a divorce. Just emotionally, she did not want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
The market in Hartford is a little slow, which is a big concern of mine.
Uh-huh.
But so she really wasn't able to sell the house for what she was hoping to get for it.
Right.
So I made an offer and said I can't pay you for the property right now, but I would
Right.
take over all of the responsibilities. That was her big concern. I think always you want to look for what are people trying to get it, and she just didn't want to have anything to deal with it.
Right.
So so I just took it over, and the house is giant. It's a giant old brick house. I think it's from the 1800s. But it's beautiful. It's in great condition. I rented out a few of the rooms in the main house, and then the two-bedroom apartment, and there's a giant garage that goes with it. So all of these things combined, and I have a very low. I did a lease option with her, so at least.
I was going to bring that up. I was very impressed when I saw that. How did you learn about how to do master leases?
Before I met you guys, I had done lots and lots of reading of just books and strategies, and
Uh-huh.
I really didn't know. I mean, it all seemed so amazing, but I didn't know it was possible.
Right.
So when I came across her situation, I said, well, maybe we could try that. It seemed like a good option for you. I'll take care of. You don't have to worry about the payments. You don't have to worry about the maintenance. So the responsibility is off of your shoulders. You do have the mortgage still, but I'm going to be taking care of everything. And if something doesn't happen, then you just take it as your property still. You can.
I really love how you phrase that, Josh, because it's very the language you use is I'll be taking over all responsibilities for this property.
Yeah.
And I could just imagine, the person on the other side of this conversation kind of having a sigh of relief because they really want the relief of that responsibility. So I think that's a really important thing to learn as an investor is to listen for those clues of how you could offer the relief. So you did a wonderful job with that. I mean, good job.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's interesting. It was probably one of my best deals. I almost felt a little guilty because I did negotiate with her a little bit to bring it down even more. But the relief she had was just, yes, please. She was so happy to be gone.
Definitely a win-win, right? I mean, she was happy, you're happy. Right?
Yeah. Interesting. It's a similar conversation that I had with the banks in Maine. They didn't want to own the property. They're small banks. They don't have a big portfolio of real estate owned. So I just met them actually at a social event, and I said, yeah. If you want to get rid of the property, I will gladly take it from you. And we just did some negotiating from there.
Right. Are you still in touch with the people of the bank? Do you have a good relationship with them?
Yes. The vice president who I was dealing with has retired, but the bank is so small and the town is so small that for sure I could walk in there and chat with them again.
That would be really interesting. Do you know of any other investors out in that area? Because, I mean, it's so pervasive when you see all these people talking about wholesaling and flipping houses. It's such kind of this awareness that, a lot of people see this as a way to make money. I'm just kind of curious, are there any other people trying to do what you've done out there?
There's some flipping going on in Maine, not a lot. There's, when I looked at the flip that we just purchased, we looked at a lot of properties, and there's a lot of very cheap properties out there for sure. Still, the foreclosures are they're around, but we found a couple of places where it looked like, oh, this is going to be a great deal. It's $20,000, $25,000. How can we go wrong? Right. But when you start looking at the expenses, the foundation was collapsed, and
a lot can go wrong.
Yeah, and the resale value is just not. You might be getting 150 or 120 or something like that. So if you buy a property for $20,000, but you have to put in 200 to get it to sell for 150, that's not going to work for anybody.
Right. Did you do any marketing like John is doing, like any direct mail or anything like that, Josh, or was it mostly?
I haven't actually. I was interested to hear more about how he did that, and just kind of what you expect as far as return on that. What kind of response rates you would expect to get? I haven't. I've heard about it, I've read about it, but I've never.
Yeah, let's all brainstorm together about that, because I think John is in a place where a lot of investors are. You have this budget, right? You don't have this gargantuan federal budget where you can have a lot of waste. You want to make the most out of it. And I think what John did with his one example of his driving by, and he tried different methods of communicating. I think that's key. Doing 4 mailers. Doing 4 repeat mailers to one person is much better than just doing one mailer to 500 and never, because a lot of times it takes a lot of luck sometimes, or it's just that person starts to feel a familiarity, or, oh, hey, it's John, he's mailing me again. I think I'll call him this time. And sometimes it takes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times before that'll happen. So I like I think that's an important factor to think of, John, with your strategy, is to think of ways you can do multiple touches.
Sure.
And that's why it's really important to narrow down your focus on either situation or geographic. Some way to, one correction that was given to me by my mentor said, your list is way too big. You've got to really get rid of all the junk out of that list and figure out who's the best person that you need to talk to, because they could really use your expertise, right? And you're going to set yourself apart, because a lot of obvious places to mail are getting a lot of obvious mail. So how do you stand apart? And are you going to be the person that mails once and goes away? With the properties I own, I get mailers all the time with, hey, I buy houses for cash, and every now and then I'll call. And it was funny because I called this one, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and then, he's advertising, oh, it's going to be 10 days or less cash, whatever, we'll give you an offer. So I'm like, okay, I'll play ball. So I said, okay, yeah, want to sell my property. As soon as I emailed, did I call or no? I called first. I got somebody, and then he said, okay, I'll email you, and then I'm going to get you an offer. I haven't heard from him in a week. So with all that money he spent on marketing, and then I actually raised my hand, and we actually did a little bit of negotiating over the phone, because I think he was just kind of taking my temperature. And I said, yeah, if I know it'd be hard to sell this house traditionally, so if I can get rid of it, and this is honest, if I can get rid of it at a decent price, I may take advantage of, being able to take that cash and just redeploying it, kind of like you, Josh. You want to redeploy your capital, but he didn't follow up. So follow up on a smaller list is going to be a key, especially for a smaller operator, I think, a way to separate yourself. So narrow down that geographical focus and maybe situational focus as well, and I think you'll do much better.
That's interesting. Yeah, I actually just received some mail. The flip that we're doing, some brokers were sending me mail. I've got a lot of different mail from people. Sometimes the fake handwriting,
sure.
It always makes you pause a little bit, the fake handwriting. But this one was actually, it was a bound presentation, and they had other properties with comps, and they had done some extra research on this property in particular, which
that's impressive.
Makes it feel like it wasn't. I mean, it must be very expensive to do that, but at the same time, it wasn't. It seemed more customized, and I definitely took a look and looked through it.
Right.
What I was hoping they would have done is put some real numbers in and an analysis of like, what do you think you could get for me? Like, that's really what I was hoping to find. So I threw it away. But
right. What they could have done, and when you're doing this direct mail, one of the things that you need to do is you want to engage the reader. So it sounds like they had you, but they didn't take it all the way home, right? You're like, oh, this looks like it could be important to me. And they could have put in something to get a customized analysis for your situation, call here, and what would you have done if you had something like that?
Yeah, if it said to get a customized call here, I would probably still throw it away. But if it gave me some kind of numbers to start with, like you're going to be in the range of, this property is probably going to be like 225, 250. I was like, okay, if you think we're going to get in that range, then I'd love to talk to you if you think that's possible.
So if in the letter it said, hey, Josh, I think I can get you between 225 to 250, call me and we'll talk about how to do that. Now, would you throw it away or would you call?
No, I'd call them.
Yeah, see, that's really important, John, when you do your letters is, that type of engaging, this is really valuable because he's an owner and he just said that he would actually take the time to call if it had a language that was a little bit different, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So the message.
And it seems like it was, kind of customized for me and that property, not just, you can kind of tell a feeling for bulk and a feeling for like this person is actually trying to reach out to me in particular. That makes a difference for me for sure.
Yeah, and I think that is almost universal because I think almost every investor I know that starts out direct mailing, it's going to be like the yellow letter with I buy houses for cash, call me, right? Mm-hmm. And if I have 5 of those, I guess if I'm super, super motivated and my hair's on fire, I'll call somebody. Mm. But if I'm in a particular situation where I don't exactly know what I need yet, I think if I have some more engaging dialogue that's happening on the letter, that might be the thing that like Josh has attested to, right? Hey, if I think I can get you this much for it, and to find out how, or let's talk about how I can get you this much for it. That's much more engaging proposition to an owner like Josh.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting, just on that same topic, there's I believe he's a broker in Los Angeles who's been contacting me for probably 2 years now. I mean, this is a long pathway to get a sale or to get a purchase. But he's been trying for 2 years, just explaining to me and trying to be informative what the other houses are selling for in the area. I think he wants to get the listing when it happens.
Sure.
But he's just been giving me information for free, asking if you ever want to do an analysis, we'll do it for free. Don't worry about it. Right. And I kind of feel like I answer the phone when he calls now. I kind of have like a little conversation with him. I'm not interested in selling, but he's also not pushing to buy. But I think when I do list, I'll probably call him first. If I ever list, I probably never will, to be honest.
Yeah. How often does he contact you or have some sort of mail or a conversation with you?
It's like every 6 months probably. Or, sometimes you might, if we had a good conversation, he might call back in 2 weeks and say, hey, remember that property I said was up for sale? It actually sold, and, just an update or something. But
yeah. Hey, John, I was just thinking about, how Josh got his deal out in Connecticut. It was through kind of his interpersonal connections, right? In any of your mailers, because you're basically starting kind of like square one. It's like, okay, I'm going to do it now, right? You're like, I'm really going to get my first wholesale deal. Does your inner circle of people that know you, do they know that you're doing this?
No, I haven't. Well, I've told a few people, but I get more negative feedback. Like, well, you can't do that, or you're not the type of person that negotiates, or I get that from my family that they see the old me and they don't see what I could become.
So that's not supportive to you at all.
Not supportive. Yeah.
Okay, so
I'd rather get some success and then come to them and say, hey, look what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
What I've done, and then they'll be on board. And
then, you really need cheerleaders right now, John. You don't need anybody putting any negative thoughts in your head. But if you can, if I said, okay, here's a piece of paper, number it 1 to 10. Think of 10 cheerleaders that you have in your life. Write their names down, and I would really encourage you, whether it's a personal friend or just somebody that you have this really good professional connection with. Say, hey, if you know anybody, you don't have to explain the big story. You can just say, hey, if you know anybody that is in a sticky situation and owns some real estate, I'd really appreciate it if you sent them my way. And there's a lot higher power that you're putting out there because you're kind of claiming that you're going to do this, you're going to help somebody, and then I think it'll put you in a situation where this is what I am. I'm an investor. I'm a wholesaler, and I think it's important to give it to somebody that you know is going to be your cheerleader.
Right.
I definitely second the idea of not giving it to people who are going to be negative about it.
Yeah, you don't need that.
That's a great choice. Yeah.
None of us need that. Trust me, it's
Yeah.
it's hard enough, right?
The smallest amount of negativity can just outweigh so much of cheerleaders. It's
Yep.
very
Abs-
powerful. So
Absolutely.
that's a great choice, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that'll be great too. I think Iris's program is very complete as well in the 60-day challenge. But I would definitely, have that mindset of, okay, if I can get 5 more people, 10 more people cheerleading for me, and just say, hey, if you know anybody, or who do you know that might be thinking about selling a tough property or something like that, you'll never guess. I remember I was hanging out with a contractor buddy of mine in Texas because I have a portfolio in Texas, and we were just chatting, and he's like, "Oh, my aunt lives in L.A. or in the L.A. area, and she's got this house, and she's got this problem." And he starts outlining this problem, and it's like exactly in my wheelhouse. I'm like, "Oh, dude, I could definitely help her," and stuff like that. You'll just have the faith that putting it out there where nothing, if nothing happens, that's great because you're back where you started anyway. But if you get a deal or maybe 2 or 3 more connections toward another deal, because sometimes they could say, well, I don't know anybody in particular that is selling, but I do know my cousin's a contractor and he runs across all this stuff all the time, right? You open yourself up for that possibility. So that,
Yeah.
and that's not really going to cost you a lot of money. So remember, you're wanting to make the most out of your time and your budget. So think about adding that to your repertoire.
Sure.
So, Josh, you've never done any kind of mailing. Have you considered it, doing any sort of direct mail, Josh?
I have thought about it. Yeah, I really am very selective when I'm gonna try and get something. It's just I'm very, very careful. I do a lot of analysis, and if it seems right, then I just will go for it. I honestly these things have just kind of I don't want to say fallen in my lap, but
Right.
I went to this. I got one house at an auction in Maine, and I was actually in Los Angeles at a Starbucks. I've never bought a house at auction. I don't know how that even works. So I'm bidding, hitting the button, outbid, you've been outbid. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to $40,000, and that's it. I can't do any more.
Right.
And it went very quickly from 20 to 39.
Wow.
And then I did hit 40, and I just got it. And it's just yeah. I haven't really. The deals have just really been kind of presented, and when I see one that seems like excellent, I'll just go for it aggressively. And I guess I've been very lucky in that way.
Yeah.
For sure. But no time to they have taken so many of my resources to get them up to this point. I'm generally using every dollar that I can scrape together just to get that last one pulled together, before I can get on to the next one. So I haven't had been in the shopping mentality a whole lot. It's just
Gotcha. You want to kind of take care of what's at hand first, and then before you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. It can get overwhelming very quickly if you have multiple vacancies and 3 renovation projects going. You're like, oh, it gets so expensive. So
Yeah.
it's overwhelming for sure.
Well, I'm going to ask this question of both of you. If there's one thing that could be answered or support that can be given to you in the next 60 days, what would it be to completely change where you are today? Why don't you go ahead first, John?
I think for me, it's really just knowing my numbers and knowing how to analyze deals properly, learning that better, and learning them. Well, having more focus, picking a market so I can really get to know the numbers in that area, because it seems too hard to learn all of LA.
Yep, definitely is. Yeah.
But to really focus more on one area and get to know that area, get to know what things are worth, and get to feel more confident in my numbers and in what I can offer.
Right.
And I think that will help me a lot. And I know with this program I'm going to join, I think we'll be pushed to take a lot of action in that area. So
Yeah, I have no doubt you'll learn the numbers. I think if I were your professor, I would give you a homework assignment to pick an area and really know that area like the back of your hand. And it would be, something really small, like that old Thomas guide. I would say pick 10 of these, blocks in a grid, and then know this area. Do all the research. What is sold in the last year? What is sold in the last month? And what's it going per square foot for a 3-bedroom, for a 4-bedroom, for a 5-bedroom, or whatever. or whatever type of property you're targeting, so that you can kind of, it's going to give you a couple things. Number one, it's going to give you an idea what the numbers are, but it's also you're going to look up and see who's actually buying in that area. So now you'll know who the buyers are. And the best way for me to do numbers is to actually do it on real deals. So what I would do is I would say, hey, look, there's this house that's boarded up on 24th Street and 1300 block. Here's how many loans are against it, and here's what initially I think it's worth. I haven't done the fine-tooth comb stuff yet, but if it's fat enough of a margin, then I'm going to actually look at it. If it's too skinny, I'm not going to try to finesse it into making it work. But then you'll say, okay, so the next time I see anything in this 10 box grid, I'll say, oh yeah, and it'll be much easier. And then you can build from there. But I think it's really important for you to have some success right away, because there's. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday who was saying, the best way to ensure future behavior is to reward that behavior. So so if you're having a behavior of driving a property, give yourself a reward by actually diving into that deal, because otherwise, if you're saying, well, I'm going to drive to Compton today, then I'm going to go to Bellflower, then I'm going to go to that, you're just going to be tired. And it's just going to be like, oh my God. And the fundamentals are really going to be in saying, okay, I know this house, I know this block, I know that, in this part of 24th Street or wherever, it's like really bad news if you go past this street, right? And that's really important to know, because you're going to smart your competition, because you'll know that super, super well. And there's nothing that says you have to stay with that location. You know what I mean? It's just, that's where you're going to learn. And
right. And part of me learning how to analyze better is also learning repair costs and what does it cost to, what is this house going to cost to fix up, per square foot, maybe, what's a ballpark of what it's going to cost, in the LA area to fix up these houses. So I kind of got to get a better grasp on that as well.
Yeah. I always emphasize that, once you find an opportunity, then you'll be forced to learn what it's going to cost. You know what I mean? So find the opportunity where, it's like what Josh did. He found somebody that's in a divorce and just doesn't want to deal with it. So he's actually going to say, okay, I'm going to talk to this person, and then I'm going to find out, okay, well, here's the condition of the inside. Okay, now I have something to work with, instead of the hypothetical stuff of, it's $20 a square foot for this, and it's $50 a square foot for this type of repair. Actually get to, spend your time in finding that opportunity or possible opportunity, and then that's when you're going to be like, okay, now I'm forced to say, okay, how much does it cost to repair this raised foundation floor, and it's 1,300 square feet. Well, now I actually got to get a real number to see how much it's going to cost to repair it. So I'm going to bring in a handyman or a contractor and say, well, what would you charge me to fix this? And then you're going to put the extra percentage of overruns, right? And then you'll say, okay, do I have still plenty of room to make money in this? And I think you're gonna love this process, John, because it's going to be so finite. It's going to be smaller that you're going to say, yeah, I could do this. So I definitely encourage you to do that. How about you, Josh? What would piece of information or support or I used to call this the burning question portion of my my live meeting.
Yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that? And I would put it on the chalkboard.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was my favorite parts.
I wanted to just mention to John too. This may or may not have good advice. I'm not sure. I was just thinking about my neighborhood in Los Angeles, where the rental property is, and that neighborhood it's a very heavily Hispanic neighborhood, and there's one Hispanic grocery store for several blocks. I mean, many, many blocks actually. I would be willing to bet all of the people in that neighborhood go to that grocery store. If you wanted to go to that grocery store and chat up with the tellers and chat up with the people that are in the parking lot and just kind of say, make friends with the people and kind of make yourself part of that. If you are narrowing a community, maybe you can chat with those people.
Yeah.
I would also go to the various restaurants because I wanted to support the neighborhood for increasing. There was little startup restaurants and stuff. I just go and chat with the people as much as possible.
Have lunch there, right? Have breakfast there.
Exactly, everything. Yeah, and just chat them and say, hey, what's the neighborhood looking like? I'm looking to doing stuff like this, and those people know all of the people. So if you're looking to find someone who has a special condition or special situation,
right,
they'll know them, right? They'll know and they might be able to make an introduction where a piece of mail wouldn't get through.
Right.
I don't know if that's good advice or bad, but it's just a thought.
I think it's awesome advice. I would give that a 5-star rating, because what you're doing is you're becoming a familiar face in the community, and then you're going to be you're going to be in the early on the deal chain, right? I always talk about, if it's in the MLS, the chances of it being a deal are greatly reduced.
Sure. Yeah.
Not saying that you can't find a deal on an MLS, but a lot of people have already looked at it, and unless you have some specific problem-solving skill that you can do cheaper or better than the other people that looked at it, you really have to look at a lot of those deals, right?
Right.
But if you're in a neighborhood and say, hey, you know what, so and so, I know that their father's sick and has to go to a home, and the son lives out of state, and they're trying to figure out how to. That's a golden opportunity to say, hey, look, I can make this a much easier transition for you, or whatever. I can really help you with the situation. Yep. And it takes a while to do that. It's not something where it's just like, well, send out 50,000 mailers. That's another way to do it too, right? But right. But considering restraints, you might want to decide, hey, there might be some different ways to do this.
Yeah. I'd love to hear how that goes if you decide to try it. That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
So, Josh, did you come up? I don't remember if I heard anything. What do you think would really help you at this point, Josh?
Yeah, I do. I do have something that would be very helpful. I kind of have these pockets of equity in each of these properties. I'm convinced, and I'm certain that there's a way to restructure and organize these things. And I know that if I make the absolutely right decisions in the next year or so, restructuring and filling up the right money and doing the right things with these projects, I know it could be very profitable. Right. I'm looking at all these different possibilities of how to sell this, how much do I renovate it. The Los Angeles property is another one. I think that neighborhood is increasing in value with the train line, and especially with some other development going on. Yeah. Does it make sense to do the 3-car garage, to spend that money, or I don't know. I just looked a little bit at the zoning laws. Does it make sense to just level it and put a much bigger property on there? And really make an investment in it, and then maybe possibly sell it and cash out and put the money somewhere else. I know there's some strategies to make this a very profitable year, but I'm just torn on exactly which way to go. I have an idea on the start of it, but there's some that are a little unknown still.
Do you have a lot of these possibilities in writing? I mean, I know that one person I know, he actually makes written decision trees. Like, I could do this, 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 and this, and then if you write them down, it kind of will clear your mind a little bit, because then you don't have to kind of ruminate about the possibilities over and over again in your head, and then you can actually put real numbers to it. And then, also think about the big picture stuff is that, you're in North Carolina, and you just said, I don't think I want to deal with something that complex from far away. So you might have to kind of put that on the back burner for now. But there might be some easier steps that you can take, like, can I refinance my debt out on this at a lower rate? Can I raise rent? Can I lower expenses? That's usually where I go first before I go into the big guns, like, can I rezone? Can I, tear this down and do that? There might be some little steps you can take that can give you little boosts of cash flow and improve your situation that don't have to be as drastic. But that's not saying that it's completely taking the other alternatives off the table. It's just a way, hey, I made a 3% improvement this year on just by doing this really simple stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I guess I do have. I know you said one burning question. Another one. I'm curious to know. I believe I've done the research properly, but I'd like to sell 2 properties and do a 1031 exchange or 1034 exchange.
1031.
Yeah, and because those properties are less expensive than the larger one. You can put 2 properties into one exchange and not paying taxes. That's okay. That's great. And then get a line of credit on investment property is my second piece of that. Part of my plan and strategy for this year. I think that's possible, but you got to find the right bank to do it.
Yeah, it's possible. It's a little more difficult, but it's possible. Sure. And if the numbers are right, it's going to make it much easier. And also depends on the area and that you're trying to do. Which lenders are active. But also, think about using or at least making connections with private lenders as well that are, maybe people in the area that are looking to get a good return on their money. I just talked to a friend of mine that he's saying, I think I'm going to put some money into a 2% CD, and I'm like, no, don't do that. I could pay you this much on a deed of trust and note, and those type of things. they really help, and they're win-win situations, right? You can lower your debt because now you've taken off bank financing, and then you also help somebody out get a much better, and I think a superior return on some of their idle money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd be happy to double the 2% of anyone who wants to.
Yeah. Anyone who wants to do that, Josh, is
no problem there.
Yeah. Well, great. I really appreciate the time, guys. I think what we'll do is offline, I'll send out an email to you and say, hey, how are things going? You want to do another one and have you both on here one at a time. But I love the opportunity just to check in with you guys and see how everything's going. Sound good to you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been great.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to encourage anyone that wants to maybe share some information with John or Josh, please post underneath on the video. It'll be on our Facebook page. And if you have any thoughts or strategies that you think would be helpful to them, we welcome it, because we all need cheerleaders in this, right? So, wish all these guys luck in reaching their goals, and we will check in from time to time. But from now, we're going to say goodbye. Hey, everybody have a great weekend, and thanks again to my guests, John and Josh. Take care, guys.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So we'll stay on there for a little bit while the music plays out. But hey, thank you guys. That was really great. I think it went really well. I think a lot of people are going to be helped with this process.
That's fantastic. Thanks. I'm so happy to have done this. This is great. Really
that's cool. It. So I had no idea you were in North Carolina, but I'm glad that we reconnected. And I just love technology. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, definitely. Yep, this is perfect.